And part of what we're going to see is that this battle, or this attacking each other between the northern and the southern kingdom, went on for 7.5 years that they were battling each other. So you would know Abner would be up there pulling the strings up in Israel. And so although they thought they could end it, it hadn't. And so for 7.5 years, the 11 northern tribes were battling David's tribe that David was for. Okay, keep that in mind as we see what happens. Now, there was a long war between the house of Saul and the house of David. Even though Saul is dead, even though Saul's sons who are in the military are dead, there's still a war taking place, right? Most of this is to be blamed by Abner. But David waxed stronger and stronger, and the house of Saul waxed weaker and weaker. Now you would assume that if there's 12 tribes and 11 tribes are attacking the one tribe, who would you think would win this battle? The odds were in the favor of Saul's house, right? Because of the odds. However, that was not God's plan, was it? Nor was it in God's will. And so, as this 7.5 year battle took place, who became stronger and stronger and stronger during the battle? Yeah, David. His tribe became the dominant one and stronger and stronger. But it did not happen overnight. 7.5 years is a long time. Take a moment and think where you're going to be in 7.5 years from now and what's going to happen. Okay? And unto David were sons. Now I want to take a look at this. How many wives did David already have? Had at least 2. Had family. Now this 7.5 years war is taking place. Remember, Hebron, God told him to go to Hebron, right? And so we're going to read a little bit about some descendants of David. And you will note throughout the Bible they're mentioned and they went down in history. And this is how they came about. And unto David were sons born in Hebron. And his firstborn was Amnon of Ahinoam, the Jezreelitist. Now, he increased his wives, okay? She wasn't one of them that was mentioned before, right? But during war, so that's one of the sons that he has. And his second, Chilib of Abigail, the wife of Nabal the Carmelite. Remember, her husband turned to stone because he insulted the house of David. And the third, Absalom, the son of Maacah, the daughter of Talmai, king of Geshur. This was probably a political alliance here. That's why he married her. And the fourth, Adonijah, the son of Haggith. And the fifth, Shephatiah, the son of Abital. And the sixth, Ithream, by Eglah, David's wife. Those were born to David in Hebron. Now, were they born of the same woman? 6 sons, 6 different women is what happened here. And he married. Now I want to take a moment to look at this, and we'll see the significance as we go, but I think there's some things we can draw from this. We have certain religions who say it's okay to have more than one wife. And they constantly want to refer back to the Old Testament. Now, let me point out, How many wives did God make Adam? 6? 1 wife, 1 husband. That was the example that God set forth when he started creation. That was God's plan, perfect plan. 1 wife, 1 husband. David is, as we see, is pretty promiscuous here. And he could, because there wasn't a law of the land that's against God's law. It's contrary to God's law, but was no law in the land that said you could have as many wives as you wanted to here. Plus throw in a few concubines. Now, this was all during 7.5 years that he had 6 sons. We see when we look at David that there was absolutely no peace in his house. No peace at all. And we see that at least 3 of these sons caused extreme misery in the household of David and his family as a result of this. And we'll get to those sons as we continue to study. We see that throughout the Old Testament, people who had more than one wife living in the house, and that they had no peace in their household. It was a battle. Of course, we wouldn't have the Arab nations if that wouldn't have taken place, would we? With Hagar and that, but the Jews are still battling the Arabs today as a result of man doing it his way instead of following God's way. The example was set, 1 man, 1 wife, Adam and Eve. No more than 1 Eve made for Adam. And when man chose to go contrary to that, every example in the Bible that we have caused nothing but misery in the families to do that. Now, when we look in the Old Testament, how many wives did Paul say a man should have? Or how many husbands should a woman have? What did Paul say? 1 man, 1 woman. Husband and wife, period. Nothing plural about that, right? So, but at that time, even in Paul's time, was it legal to have more than 1 wife? The Romans certainly practiced having a lot more than 1 wife, didn't they? Yes. But because it was man's way, it was not God's way, is it? And so Paul set the example. And he told us, in spite of what's going on here, in spite of it, God's will is 1 man, 1 wife. And so today when you hear certain religions out there saying, well, we have the example in the Old Testament, we have lots of examples of man going contrary to God's will, right? And we also, every example that they did that did not work out for them. It was disastrous consequences. And so God's plan, even though David violated it, and all these kings had a habit of violating it, was 1 man, 1 woman. That hadn't changed. God allowed them to do that because that was a choice that was made. And it was not against the law of the land to do that.